It's Mark Burgess with DCEO. Welcome to the Ready to Work Partnership Grant Opportunity discussion, as well as we're going to do a little bit of an overview on the job-driven NEG that we had the webinar on a few weeks ago. Just a couple quick housekeeping notes. Please have your speakers on your computers muted so that we don't get any echoing back. We'll have a moment later to have everyone ask their questions. We'll open up the phone lines to those that want to speak that way, but you can always enter a question in the chat pod and we'll try to answer that as we go along or as appropriate. We had some issues with getting registrations this time around through the Eventbrite. Please tell your staff as well as yourself, keep in mind that we're going to send out registrations through that Eventbrite. So I know I get a lot of those from other entities and tend to sometimes just overlook them. But make sure you take a look and see if it's something from us here at DCEO so that we can get a lot better participation and not have to send out a second email as we did today. Lisa Jones will be beginning the presentation today with the job-driven NEG update.
Hi, good morning everyone, and sorry we got started just a second too late. I turned the phone off instead of hitting unmute when Mark was talking, so sorry about that. Just a little bit of a background again for those of you that participated in our NEG webinar. You know that the administration has been putting out a lot of funding for specific targeted efforts towards the president's agenda. And that started really back in January 2014 when he did his budget address around wanting to target more initiatives to job-driven strategies. So one of the things that they're wanting to do, again, focus on the job-driven training principles, really ramp up the efforts of engaging industry and businesses and with more focus on credentials in secondary and post-secondary information. And then I think the other really big component is the work-based learning. And I think not only are we seeing it from the administration, but we really saw that very strongly in the efforts of Congress when they came out with their bipartisan deal on the workforce reauthorization. So, and that's really, I think, hitting home on targeting or in promoting the alignment of economic, workforce development, and education at all levels. It's emphasizing planning and coordinated actions within sub-state regional economic development. I know that and I'm sure you all have gotten into it as well, but there's a very strong emphasis on regional planning, focusing on in-demand sectors. But this is not all new to us, so we've been doing this for a long time, which is nice, I think, to see in reauthorization that it's codifying what we've been doing. So providing more employer-led work-based training options and exploring employer-based performance measures. Sorry, I'm not left-handed. We've been doing a lot of these things through our current initiative, ADAM, Advanced Training and Manufacturing Efforts. Our NEG dislocated worker training has been very focused on the job training for long-term unemployed, and then our rapid response innovation grants have also really done some targeted strategies around work-based learning and tying it to layoff aversion. The upcoming opportunities or the things that are going on right now, I think that also support what we've been doing are TACT, that's the Trade Adjustment Assistant Community College efforts. The last round of that came out, and I'm sure many of you are applying for some of that funding. The job-driven NEG that we just did, the Ready to Work, which is what we're going to be talking about today, and then also, I think for Illinois, our future grants, we want to continue this direction of sector focus, work-based learning. Next slide, please, sorry. Okay. Therese, have you joined us? Okay. So Therese, I know, is going to get on in a few minutes and talk about this, but I'll go ahead and just do just a brief introduction on the Future Illinois Workforce Innovation Opportunity Grant. We really want to work in conjunction with you all over the coming months to support. Is Therese there? Great.
Hello?
Hi, Therese?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just turn it over to you. Thanks.
Well,
Or do you?
go ahead. You can. Yeah.
Okay. All right, and then you can just jump in. Sorry about that. All right. So we do want to start the process of, building support and planning and capacity building around the leadership. So we want to work with you on regional and local economic organizations to continue promoting our sector-based partnerships for in-demand sectors, and also develop capacity to expand and manage our accelerated and work-based training options, which, again, this all really aligns with what the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act is all about.
So basically, we really want to continue our focus on in-demand sector and occupational training, working closely with the local workforce areas to align economic development, workforce, and education. And to help with that, we hope to release a series of planning grants in the upcoming months to help the local workforce areas really work more closely with economic development and regional planning initiatives, and then also to develop the capacity and expand the management of class sites in work-based training options.
Okay. I think we're ready now to kind of get in the meat. That's just an overview to set the stage. And Bob, I think I see that you're on, so if you could take it away.
Thanks, Lisa. Wait, let me turn off here. Can you all hear me now?
Yep.
So what we're doing in both of the
Bob? I think we lost Bob.
Chelsea just
You want to?
Go ahead and start something.
Okay, you want to pick up?
Yeah, this is Mike Baker. I'll step in for Bob so we can get him back on the line here. But basically, like we have done with every sector approach so far, is we want to start out with understanding what the baseline looks like and what the demand is out there across the state. So the slide that you're seeing now lays out some of the IT occupations that are in demand across the state, and kind of shows you the expected average openings that are coming up. And then on the left side, if you're printing this out or referring to it later, we also have marked some occupations that are H-1B.
Hey, Mike, I'm back joining now if you want.
Okay, great.
Yeah, as Mike said, as you all participated in the NEG, we identified the same set of occupations, and the chart you're seeing now sees the connection between those we targeted for the NEG grant and those that are also H-1B occupations. And you can see there's a strong correlation between the two, and that's why we chose those for both grants. I just want to also highlight that computer support specialists, which we consider as the entry-level job for the NEG, is also one that would be ideally suited for Track 3, we'll talk about later, career pathway opportunities, because that provide the career pathway up through the network, which is your number one in terms of job openings, basically network managers, which are H-1B, and also a pathway up through software development, which is also H-1B. So again, that kind of shows you the targeted IT occupations for both are consistent, and the only difference is that on the ready to work, it's H-1B, which means that it hits those ones that are on the X and the far side, as well as, though, we're including the computer support specialists as a entry-level pathway connection to those higher-level H-1B jobs. You go to the next one. Again, this is another thing we put in the NEG packet. These are kind of an idea of the industries that employ those targeted occupations, and it should be no surprise based on that. It's largely IT, NEGS codes in the IT sector, which all of you have substantial number of, at least that top mix code, the first two, but also you can see the transfer over into financial services and healthcare. Just like before, we put on the NEG, so that kind of gives you a sense of the industries that employ those kind of jobs, and we gave everybody employer lists as well. Go to the next one. This is just a summary that we showed last time, which shows the concentrations of projected openings for those targeted occupations by LWIA. So it kind of gives you a sense of the distribution of the openings of the jobs we put in the first table and how those distributions play out inside your local areas. Mike, I don't know if there's anything else you want to cover
No, that's fine.
on that one.
No, that's fine.
Yeah, and then what this is just a general pathway model. It just shows, again, that those computer support specialists that have the highest number of openings in all of your areas, they become that entry-level job to pathways to these other areas. And this is part of the statewide pathway model created by CompTIA for all of our sector initiatives in IT. And then to the right are the pathways that are tied to those occupations that you saw in the first table. And then those little things that indicate certifications, that's just an idea of how the certifications match up with each pathway. We can provide you a more readable table with the certifications tied to the occupations, tied to the pathways. But this gives you a general model of how we think you could do pathway solutions in both grants, starting with entry-level jobs that hit our dislocated worker minimum wages or negotiated wages statewide. Those entry levels hit those, and then the higher level jobs for the deal with H-1B are to the right there on the pathway jobs. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks, Bob.
All right, this is Laura. Good morning, everyone. Going to give a quick overview on the job-driven NEG summary. Most everyone was on the call that we had last week, a couple weeks ago, talking about this opportunity. The emphasis is on work-based training. We'll have a minimum of 35% expenditures for the work-based training, which is OJTs, customized training, apprenticeships, work experience, and internships. This NEG also allows for the core intensive occupational training and supportive services that was not allowed under the NEG DWT grant. The target population is dislocated workers, the long-term unemployed, and with the NEG, that is 27-plus weeks in aggregate since the beginning of the recession, which DOL qualifies as December 2007 through June 2009. UI profilees and foreign-trained immigrant workers who qualify as dislocated workers but face barriers to obtaining employment in their trained field or profession. DCEO has requested $6 million, and it would be a 2-year project ending June 30th of 2016. We will be working with the IT Learning Exchange and CompTIA as the partner, and we will be providing $5.25 million to the LWIAs for this project. The IT Learning Exchange provides support to LWIAs through partnerships, locally target occupations, training, certifications, work-based training models, job coaching, and matching tools. 9 LWIAs submitted an interest survey, including a consortium of 4 LWIAs. We are expecting an announcement from DOL sometime at the end of June 20th through the 30th. DCEO will then be working to get the grant applications and the project guidelines together in July. Grant awards will be based on demonstrated needs provided through the interest surveys that were submitted. All LWIAs are eligible to apply. Consideration given to those who have already submitted an interest survey, but all other LWIAs can go out on WorkNet and access the previous webinar and decide if that is an opportunity that you may decide you want to
to further look into and can submit an interest survey to us now as well. Grants, we're going to shoot for grants being awarded in September, and those will be immediate startups. And IT Learning Exchange CompTIA, we will be providing a webinar to further explain that. Now this is Mike.
Okay, thank you, Laura. Okay, so now we're going to segue from the NEG to the Ready to Work application and initiative. And we've tried to set this up so that the Ready to Work framework is as close as possible mirroring the NEG initiative that you've all been talking about for a little while. There are a couple of nuances that are a little bit different because of the program requirements, and we'll talk about those differences. But wherever we could, we tried to make this mirror that NEG so that we are doing pretty much the same thing on both efforts and make it easier for everyone to apply and get their head around what we're doing. So just the highlights here, these are in 2-year grants, $3 to $10 million for applicants, and proposals are due just in a few days, so we need to wrap that process up pretty quickly, and the grants would start in October. And then we'll go into some details on that later, but you'll have a little bit of a planning period when those grants go out, and then enrollment needs to start at a defined date afterward within 6 months. Again, same as at the NEG, it's long-term unemployed, so that's 27 weeks. And in this initiative, they're also targeting the H-1B occupations that Bob spoke to earlier with that chart in our presentation here today that shows the occupations that are on both sides there. One of the things that we really want to emphasize in the Ready to Work piece is coaching and mentoring and those services that go along with helping people get in that right career path for them and with an individual training plan, and also have as much work-based learning as possible so that they can earn while they learn, and also the employers get that try before buy approach. So you can kind of see the little factors there that are listed that are specifically tailored to treat some of the issues that long-term unemployed individuals have. And we're going to divide these, and this is part of the federal program. And these slides I'm talking about now are the federal guidelines for the program that all applicants would have to follow. They've defined 3 tracks that are in some way lead to a credential. The first track, basically you don't need a whole lot. You might be able to go straight into employment or work-based learning opportunity, work-based training opportunity, but you've already have some kind of IT background already. You just maybe need a brush up. The short-term training would be track 2, and that's maybe a more intensive brush up. Maybe you have some skills, but they may be out of date, or you may be a little bit rusty. Credentialing for those people in track 2 is strongly encouraged but not required. And for the people in track 3, those are the folks that really may not have much of any IT background at all. And they're going to need some longer-term training. They have to start at the ground level. Most of those people will. But again, they also can make use of work-based training, either through paid internships or OJTs or work experience. And for the track 3 individuals, credentialing is required. We'd like to see it everywhere, but for the federal guidelines, it is required for track 3. Okay. We are expecting that very few people would come in under track 1. That's probably not going to be a very large percentage anywhere in the state. Okay. Again, we're targeting the high growth in H-1Bs. This is an interesting wrinkle on the eligibility. 85% must be long-term unemployed, and that's our 27 weeks since the recession started. And they're looking for people that either have exhausted or nearly exhausted their UI. Then also, so that's 85%, so what about the other 15? There could be other types of unemployed workers or even incumbent workers that need a new skill to get into those H-1B jobs. Again, that's the career pathway upward. They're already working in the sector, but maybe don't have the credentials or experience they need to move on up. So we can provide those individuals with training under this initiative. And of course, veterans have priority of service, like everything that we and DOL do. Okay. So there are 3 types of entities that have to be part of each application or each project, and that is a representative from the workforce system, and then education training providers, and then also it's required that we have a linkage to a business partner or an association or group of business partners. And again, the slide again is speaking to DOL requirements for the program. Okay. And one of those types of partners has to be designated as the workforce intermediary, and in Illinois that's going to be the LWIS. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a couple minutes. And then of course, we'd like to have a strong partnership of interested stakeholders in your areas or regions. So that includes these types of entities that we've been working with on practically everything we've been doing for the last several years. So shouldn't be any surprises there. And then the nice thing is we have latitude in how we define the geographic scope. So Illinois is submitting the application on behalf of the whole state, but as far as grantees that we would provide funding to, it could be a single local workforce area, 2 local workforce areas that are continuous, or 2 or more that are touching could come in together. And taken together, we're going to have a multi-region area across the state. One of the things that we do want to make sure that, and we're going to talk about this a couple times, but you need to have critical mass of job openings for this really to work well in your region. So we just want to make sure that you have at least 50 projected job openings in the area that the application area or application group would have at in their geographic area. So if you look at the table on the projected job openings earlier in the presentation, that will kind of show you the projected openings, so you can kind of see who's already over 50 and then who might need to partner up with another organization, another area to reach that threshold. Okay. Okay, there's no matching funds required. Don't have to do any blended funding or braided funding. However, we do have to have employer commitment. They want to have at least 3 employers per area, or an association or group that represents at least 3 employers. And so that's a requirement at the state level. That's also going to be a requirement for any group that comes in for an application. And we want that in writing, and we want to know what their roles are, preferably a very strong role in helping provide work-based learning and training, hiring people that are trained by the initiative, and then also maybe leverage resources like equipment or labs or software that could be useful for the training effort. Okay, once we get the grant, we will issue the grants. No, not yet. Once we get the grant, enrollments have to start within 6 months of that award. And then we have to have all the activities completed in time for any follow-up activities, which will probably include some kind of evaluation effort by DOL. We don't have much of any details on what that would look like, but they've given us some foreshadowing that evaluation could be part of any project. So, Bob, I think I'm segueing back to you for this slide.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. We want to give you some head, as Mike said, that there's a under this requirement that you kind of divide up your services into 3 broad tracks, and with the idea that you would have a diverse population of long-term unemployed based on your targeted occupations. We want to give you a heads up. IDS provided a profile for this grant that actually profile UI exhaustees, which would be your, pretty much a large share of your 85% population. And I don't think this is any surprise to anybody, but we're anticipating very few people who meet who meet the 85% characteristics would have any background in information technology related occupations. Whether that be the 2.3% you see there from those direct occupations, or those with some sort of higher level managerial business background that may also involve some of these. So we're anticipating very few would be there for tracks 1 and probably 2. Small numbers, but actually the bulk of people are going to be in more the lower skill areas with very little, maybe some transferable skills into these IT areas. But as you see down there, you're seeing that the bulk of them will probably come from require more than just short-term training like as described in track 2. And then also you just see some of the demographics. So we just want to kind of raise the idea to you that you're probably going to see training as opposed to direct placement as being the primary interventions here. Mike?
Oh, thanks, Bob. Okay. I'm sorry, I had the paper on the wrong place here. So again, DCEO will be the lead applicant for the statewide initiative, and we'll be working with CompTIA. And for those of you who may not know who that is, they are leading the IT Information Learning Exchange. And also, they are a national credentialing organization, and they do credentials like Strata and A+, if you've heard of those in the sector. CompTIA is the organization that developed those. So they are the national information technology organization that represents employers. Also, the College Board will be on board in providing their resources and technical assistance, as well as Department of Employment Security, which Bob spoke to earlier on their information that they provided. As I alluded to earlier, for the grants that the state will be giving out, the LWIAs will have the lead role in cooperation with us and their other partners. Again, you can come in alone or as a regional consortia, mainly based on that criteria of having at least 50 projected openings. One of our lessons learned out of Adam was, we don't want the regions to get too big, so, be mindful of that. But on the other hand, you do have to have that critical mass of employers or job openings at employers in your area. Let's see. Then the key thing here is we want to tailor our training program here to meet your needs. I mean, again, each area and each region is going to be slightly different. The 15% category of participants that don't have to be long-term unemployed, you need to we'll figure out with you, that's one thing we need to think about is, what's the mix of that going to be? Is that going to be, mostly incumbent worker, maybe less incumbent worker, which occupations might be targeted in that? And we'll be doing a detailed analysis of the employment prospects in your region for the demand on that, later on, if we succeed in getting the grant. So, we don't have to worry about that too much now. We do want to put out there to be thinking about it, that's where you really have some flexibility to tailor it to your local needs. So we just want to make sure that we take advantage of that flexibility to the full extent possible. The other thing here, again, like the NEG, at least 35% of the expenditures have to be on work-based training. And then we would expect that those people that are in tracks 2 and 3, the majority of those are going to get some kind of classroom training that's accelerated. All right. So, whoa, what happened there? Okay, there we go. So a picture's worth 1,000 words. The graphic on the left is a flow chart that indicates how we would do some targeted outreach, and the big orange box in the middle is the folks that are determined eligible for the program would each get a personalized training plan similar to our ADAM project. So again, you're tailoring the training program for that person's particular needs, and also for the job occupations and openings that are available in your area. So starting on the left, that's track 1. And those are the folks that can either go straight to an OJT or other work-based training or straight into employment without much trouble. And again, we don't think that's going to be a whole lot of people. But even though it's not that many people, we'd like everyone to at least be able to offer that, because you may get some, well, even though the percentage is small, you are going to get some that come in that could go straight into that. So we don't want to put people into classroom training if they don't need it. We don't want to waste their time and ours and take up a training slot if it's not necessary. So we want those folks to be able to slide right into work-based training or employment. Then on tracks 2 and 3, those are essentially the same. We're starting out, hopefully emphasizing the work-based learning, but also factoring in some sort of classroom training, class size training, or other training opportunities that are out there. And the main difference between track 2 and 3 is that track 3 provides a bridge program. So you can do contextualized learning there and make sure that people come up to speed relatively quickly if it's necessary for that individual. I think that's it there. Thank you. So this slide is a side-by-side of the NEG and the Ready to Work. Again, we've mirrored the NEG as closely as possible for the Ready to Work, and also have linked them to the long-term goals that Therese and Lisa spoke about a little bit earlier. Again, the key thing for Ready to Work here is that 85-15% split, and that, with that 15%, we do have some flexibility with incumbent worker or other types of unemployed individuals that don't have to be long-term. Of course, Ready to Work is focusing on the H-1B occupation, and the end dates of the initiative are wildly different. We have a significant more amount of time under the Ready to Work. So what are the next steps if we're interested in proceeding with that one? We need to have a non-binding notification of interest sent to me by the end of this week. We'd like you to identify the required partners and also make sure that you have at least 3 employers or employer association that represents at least 3 employers on board. Tell us which occupations that you want to target, and then how many people you'd like to serve, employment placement goals, and your proposed budget. And we're taking this step just essentially so we have a feel for how much funding to ask for and what overall goals to tell DOL. But with the understanding, the climate may change between this Friday and when DOL awards the grant. So once we get the grant award, if we are fortunate to get the award, then we will reconvene with everyone and determine what the next steps are for proceeding at that point. So we'll take formal applications at that point, if we do get that award. So for right now, just let me know if you are interested, who your partners are, and how much money you think you need. And you can also just take your NEG budget, and we'll accept that. I mean, let's not make this any harder because we think this will be a very similar type population, very similar type program. So we'll focus on those NEG numbers at this point. So we have a question from Elwea 2 about, will this potentially be a random assignment grant like Adam? Potentially it could be. DOL has not defined what type of evaluations they will do, nor that even it's required that every project will be evaluated or have that evaluation element as part of it. But they put everyone on notice that it could be. So, we will know more about that, when the grant is awarded and we have those conversations with DOL. So, we do not know for sure, but it is certainly possible. So if you have any questions or anything that occurs to you following the webinar, feel free to either contact Lisa or myself, depending on if it's a question related to the NEG or ready to work. And the team is here available to take any questions if anyone would like to put some into the chat box.
Looks like we do have one question coming in.
Chelsea, are you going to open the phone lines to anybody?
Yep, I can go ahead and unmute everyone that's on the phone. I just want to let everyone know that since we will be unmuting you, just go ahead and mute your computer speaker so we don't get any feedback within the webinar.
Yes, the webinar.
Your microphone has been turned on.
Yes, the webinar will be available on Illinois WorkNet, and once that gets uploaded, we can get an email out to everyone where the link to it is. Any other questions? Okay, well,
before we go, I do want to highlight, because I didn't mention it, but it is on the slide, your interest notification is due to me by the end of this week, but we need the 3 commitment letters from the employers or employer groups by the end of the following week. So I just want to make sure that that deadline didn't go unnoticed.
Bob, did you have anything else to add, or I'm not sure, Trees or anybody? If not, I think
No, unless there's any questions, I have nothing to add.
Oh, we do have one coming in. Okay, guess not. Well, we'll let everyone go. We appreciate your time. And again, if you've got questions about the NEG, I'm available. All the questions about Ready to Work, feel free to reach out to Mike Baker. I would just finally encourage you to, as you're thinking about this, think about the long-term direction and the focus that we're going to be taking here as a state on these type of opportunities for the future. So again, thanks everyone. Appreciate you getting online.